Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. So my name is Michelle, and I am located in Ottawa, Ontario. I'm the Ottawa RSTP trainer, and I'm also joined with my colleague, Serena, and I'll just give her a few minutes to introduce herself also.
Hi, everybody. I'm Serena Richardson, and I am the online RSTP e-training course coordinator, and I am located in the Greater Toronto area.
Thank you so much. So we will get started with the information session today. It will run for approximately 1 hour, and we'll be recording the session so that a link to the recording as well as a copy of the slides and speaking notes can be made available to you in a follow-up email. So we do also want to let you know that this session will provide you with a general overview of the upcoming new process for submitting private sponsorship applications online. So we'll not be discussing how to fill out the forms online in this session. There will be a subsequent webinar, which you will want to register for, that will provide an actual walkthrough demonstration for using the portal and how the applications are to be submitted once the new permanent residence digital intake portal launches for private sponsorship applications. So all participants in this session will be sent a follow-up email with the link to register for that webinar, which will be scheduled for a later date following the launch of the portal. Okay, so since we are meeting today on a virtual platform, I would like to begin by acknowledging that each of us here today are located in various places across this nation we call Canada, and we are each residing on the traditional territory of many First Nations peoples. I would like to specifically acknowledge that Toronto, the location of the RSTP main office, is situated on the lands of many First Nations peoples, including Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by a Dish with One Spoon, Wampum Belt Covenant and Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. We also invite you to personally dedicate time to learn about, reflect on, and to acknowledge the history and the land of the First Nations peoples where you reside, and to personally consider how we can each, in our own way, move forward in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. So here is the agenda for today. Here's what we'll cover today in this webinar. We'll begin by providing you with a bit of information about RSTP. So RSTP is the Refugee Sponsorship Training Program, followed by the historical context for why IRCC, so Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, is moving towards online submissions for private sponsorship applications. After that, we'll discuss the new process for online application submissions, and we'll also cover some of the FAQs that you may have. So RSTP is a national program. So we are a program designed to support groups of 5 and community sponsors and sponsorship agreement holder organizations in Canada, so commonly known by the acronym SAS, and their constituent groups and co-sponsors. We do not provide training for the province of Quebec, which has its own immigration system and a different refugee sponsorship program. We are funded by IRCC and administered by Catholic Cross Cultural Services. And we do have trainers located across Canada. We do have trainers in Vancouver looking after British Columbia. We do have 2 trainers in Alberta, one in Calgary and Edmonton. We have a trainer in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Atlantic provinces. So we do have one in Fredericton and Halifax. And in Ontario, we do have trainers in the GTA area, Southern Ontario and Ottawa. So you can visit our website to find a trainer near you. So in terms of what exactly we do provide information, training, and resources for all aspects of the private sponsorship process to sponsors and the general public who are interested in the PSR program. So we do this by providing in-person workshops and virtually meeting through webinars using Zoom and GoToMeeting. We also have a monthly webinar series that we offer for groups of 5 and community sponsors, and periodically we'll offer webinars on a variety of topics related to the PSR program. We do also provide online e-training courses, so sponsors can begin with the introductory course on the PSR program, followed by an advanced level course, which takes a deeper dive into the assessment of refugees for eligibility and admissibility and assessment of sponsors for financial and settlement capacity. We also have a course specifically designed for settlement professionals, and we also offer the mandatory training courses for SAS, for sponsorship agreement holders. We also have a variety of online resources on our website, such as fact sheets, best practices manual, a minimum financial support calculator, and several training session videos. And for IRCC updates, we communicate directly to subscribed sponsors through our email distribution list and providing bi-weekly communications through the RSTP bulletin and BVOR newsletter. You can follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and on YouTube. You're also able to access any of our trainers through either email, phone calls, for any inquiries that you may have about the PSR program. You can also get instant answers to your sponsorship questions by calling our helpline, which is 1-800 helpline. So the phone number on the screen, you're able to call us anytime up to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Our local RSTP trainers provide support by reviewing the group of 5 or community sponsor applications before sponsors submit them to IRCC to ensure that it is complete and filled in correctly. We do offer the Blended Visa Office Referred Program, the BVOR program support to sponsors from start to finish, and the PSR SPO Connections project provides matching of sponsors to settlement or providing agencies, and also provides specific training for settlement professionals who do want to specialize in supporting privately sponsored refugees. So there's quite an area of things that we're able to support you with, so feel free to reach out to us. So IRCC is expanding the current permanent residence portal to include private sponsorship of refugees applications. And this is what we'll be focusing on today. The anticipated launch date for this portal would be in fall 2023, so early November. There will be a grace period during the transition period from submitting applications by email to using the online submission portal only. So the grace period will be until the 31st of December 2023, so until the end of this year. So all sponsorship types will use the online submission portal. So that would be the sponsorship agreement holders, constituent groups, groups of 5, and community sponsors. So applicants will have access to the portal from this link that's on our screen. So just noting that the portal has not yet been launched, but you are also able to take a look. So before we dive into the information about the new online portal, I want to provide some historical context for application submissions. Prior to 2016, PSR applications were mailed to IRCC. So privately sponsored refugees applications, they were mailed to IRCC prior to 2016. Mailed applications took a significant amount of time for sponsors because they would need to send the hard copy forms to the refugees overseas for signing and wait for them to come back again along with supporting documents. And they would also need to coordinate to have each of the sponsors sign the forms in person with a pen before sending the completed application package on to IRCC. So some sponsors will send an application by courier to IRCC, which was a way to speed up delivery and to track the application's arrival. However, it was quite costly. For example, using Perlator ground service in 2015 within Ontario would cost approximately $30 per application from Toronto to Ottawa. So it was quite costly at that time. And once the application packages arrive at IRCC, they had to be manually entered by data entry clerks into IRCC's database called the Global Case Management System. So you might be familiar with it under the acronym GCMS. So on IRCC's end, the number of clerks available and how quickly they could enter the data would determine how fast applications were processed. And once the sponsor's portion of the application was approved, the documents, the refugee documents, were then mailed to the Overseas Migration Office for processing. So it was quite a process and quite costly, and it was also taking quite some time. So that was up until 2016. And in 2016, a new process was then implemented where applications could be submitted by email, and emailed applications quickly became the preferred method because digital versions of the applications could be processed a lot faster. Sponsors could send the forms and the documents by email to the refugees abroad, and only the signature pages needed to be printed, signed, scanned, and emailed back to their sponsors, who would then email the whole application as PDF attachments to the Resettlement Operations Center in Ottawa, to ROCO. The introduction of the 3D barcodes for the IMM 008, so the generic application form, meant that the amount of manual data entry at ROCO was also reduced. So applications sent by mail post, they were still accepted. However, it was still going to be a slower process. So even if sponsors managed to send the application to the refugees by email, in some cases, the refugee may still have had to mail the package back to them, especially where the internet access was limited or costly. So for IRCC, mailed applications are not the preferred method of intake since it slows down the processing time at the Resettlement Operations Center in Ottawa. So this is because it does add a processing step of having to digitize the hard copy forms and documents, meaning that IRCC would have to manually scan each and every page into PDF files. And of course, introducing 3D barcodes eliminated the data entry of the IMM 0008 forms. However, each of the Schedule A and Schedule 2 forms, as well as all of the sponsors' forms, will still need to be manually entered into GCMS by IRCC. So moving on to now fall 2023 and onwards, possibly around the start of November, the PSR applications will be submitted online via IRCC's Permanent Residence Portal. And the benefit of using the portal is that the application forms can be accessed, they can be edited, they can be submitted directly online, and supporting documents can also be uploaded directly to the portal. So the digital intake method will also provide a stronger protection measure for the privacy of information being provided, and files will be created in the IRCC system much more efficiently so that PSR applications can be actioned sooner. So any sponsorship group type will be able to access the portal, whether they are a group of 5, whether they are a community sponsor, whether they're a sponsorship agreement holder, and their constituent groups or co-sponsors. Immigration representatives will also have access to this portal. So whichever group type you belong to, you will first need to create a user account in order to get started. Okay, so within the sponsorship group, a primary sponsor would need to be decided upon. So in a moment, we'll discuss in detail how to decide who the primary sponsor should be. But for now, what you will need to know is that this will be the person who will initiate the application. The key things to keep in mind when deciding who will be the primary sponsor is that they have specific responsibilities, such as they will be the only one who can invite or delete group members and submit the application, the complete application to IRCC. So once the application has been initiated, the primary sponsor will add the names and emails to the application for each of the other members of the sponsorship group. And they can also invite the refugee principal applicant, although that is completely optional, depending on whether they have access to reliable internet or not. And we'll talk more about that in the next few slides. Then an automatic email invitation will be sent to each one of them. So, for example, in the case of a sponsorship agreement holder, it will make sense to have the staff representative as the primary sponsor who initiates the application, and they would then need to add the co-sponsor or constituent group signatories to the application. I'll now pass it on to my colleague, Serena, who will now talk a little bit more about what exactly are the changes coming and how to determine who is the primary sponsor.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay, so we're going to take a closer look at how to decide who the primary sponsor should be. So for a group of 5, any one of the group members can be the primary sponsor. So whoever initiates the application first will have that responsibility. For a community sponsorship group, it would be a best practice to have a designated email address and digital platform user account set up for initiating all of your applications. For sponsorship agreement holders, you must create a digital portal user account that is associated with the same primary email address that is on file for your sponsorship agreement holder at Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada. Some organizations have created a shared email account for their primary email address because processing applications might be done by more than one person. So for example, if my organization was called Lifeboat and we had a shared email address called sponsors@lifeboat.org, that would need to be the same email address we would use when creating the digital platform account login for the primary sponsor. And that would also need to be the same email address we provided to IRCC for our SAWS primary contact. So immigration representatives, such as lawyers or consultants, may also initiate applications on behalf of their clients who are the sponsors. However, if sponsors want ultimate control of the application submission, then they should determine to be the primary sponsor and then simply invite their immigration representative to assist with completing the application. Now let's take a look at what a primary sponsor's responsibilities would be. They are responsible for initiating an application, and optionally, they can invite the principal applicant. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. They have the responsibility to not only invite, but also delete members as necessary. And they are responsible for reviewing forms for correctness and completeness. And they are responsible to verify any uploaded documents are the correct ones. And they have the sole responsibility for submitting the applications once they have reviewed and verified them. The primary sponsors can see the status of all portal applications that are submitted by that sponsoring group. They can see whether they are in progress, submitted, or returned. They can review and delete any unsubmitted applications in the portal. They can resend forgotten passwords to any of the group members. They also have the sole ability to download the submitted application package as a zip file. And keep in mind, with that capability, it is possible for them to view other group members' ID and financial documents. Now let's see who the primary sponsor will be inviting to the application. So for a group of 5 primary sponsor, their primary sponsor would invite each of the other group members to the application. Sponsorship agreement holder representatives could invite their constituent group representatives or other members, such as staff or volunteers assisting with completing the forms. And sponsorship agreement holders or community sponsor groups could invite any co-sponsor, individuals or organizations that are going to be submitting the application along with them. If your sponsorship group has an immigration representative, they can be added as well. So now let's take a look at what invited group members can and cannot do. Invited group members can create their own user account, and they can see a listing of applications they have been invited to. They can't see all of the applications that a sponsorship agreement holder is submitting. They can only see the applications they have been specifically invited to. They can view and edit the refugee forms. And they can upload their personal ID and financial documents without any concern that the majority of the other group members will be able to see that sensitive information. They can upload the sponsors forms and any supporting documentation. And these are the things they cannot do. They cannot invite or delete group members. They cannot submit or delete applications. They cannot view or edit applications that they are not invited to. And they do not have the ability to access the other group members' uploaded personal documents, such as their ID and financial statements. So basically, what this means is that the primary sponsor should be comfortable with technology, with using computers, and they should be able to manage all documents uploaded by all group members. But keep in mind that this person will have access to very sensitive information on all group members. So it's recommended that all group of 5 members discuss who will be designated as the primary sponsor. In the case of community sponsorship groups and sponsorship agreement holders, it will make sense for your representative for the organization's sponsorship agreement or the primary person named for your community sponsorship group to have that role of the primary sponsor. So once invited, each of the group members will need to log in to the portal from the unique link provided for them in the email they have received. Once they have logged in, each of the sponsors and the refugee, if they have been invited, will be able to access and edit the refugee's online forms via the portal. What this means is that sponsors can assist refugee applicants with the completion of their forms. Initially, for the launch of the online portal, the sponsors' forms and the refugee Schedule 2 form will still need to be completed offline as PDF forms and then uploaded into the portal. Hopefully, at some point in the future, these forms will also be included as a direct input form online through the portal. The invited refugees can upload their own Schedule 2, plus supporting documentation, and will be required to electronically sign a declaration once their online application has been completed prior to submission. If, however, the refugee cannot access the portal for various reasons, such as not having a stable internet connection, not knowing how to use a computer, or perhaps they simply do not have the language skills to complete the forms. In this case, their sponsors or legal representative can assist by completing the forms online for them and opt to have the final declaration page printed so that the refugee applicant can sign it by hand. The sponsor would then need to scan and upload it into the portal along with the refugee's supporting documentation. As mentioned earlier, the primary sponsor who initiated the application has the responsibility to review the application to ensure everything has been filled out properly, that all parties to the sponsorship have signed their declarations, and that no supporting documents are missing. And if everything is ready to go, the primary sponsor is the only one who has the ability to submit it to IRCC. After submission, sponsors cannot edit the application, but IRCC will be reviewing the application for completeness, meaning they will be checking to see if there's anything missing, such as whether or not any supporting documentation were not included. Please be aware that at this stage, IRCC will not be deciding whether or not a refugee status determination document, the RSD document, is valid or not. That happens at a later stage, after the application has been deemed to be complete and ready for processing. When it comes to sponsorship agreement holders, IRCC staff will continue to verify the names and email addresses match what they have on file as the primary contact for that organization in order to prevent unauthorized application submissions via the portal. If the application is found to be incomplete, the sponsors will be notified by email that they must log in to the portal again to rectify the situation. At this point, the application editing function will become available so that sponsors can make the necessary changes. As mentioned earlier, the primary sponsor who initiated the application is the only one who has the ability to resubmit the application to IRCC. Once the application is deemed to be complete, IRCC will need to manually input the sponsor's PDF form data and the Schedule 2 into GCMS. However, the refugee's form data is automatically connected to GCMS via the portal. With the file creation in GCMS, a G number will be issued. It is at this point that the processing time will begin and the date timestamp for the first in, first out queue for processing is assigned. IRCC will communicate with sponsors by email, which is external to the portal, meaning there will not be a function for messaging IRCC via the portal for any communications related to the application. And as was mentioned previously, once an application has been submitted, sponsors will not have access to edit the application via the online portal. Sponsors will also not be able to add a dependent to the application using the online portal after the application has been submitted. Instead, sponsors will need to notify ROCCO externally by email when changes need to be made or if a dependent needs to be added, and to follow the instructions provided in the respective guide to private sponsorship. Sponsors will, however, be able to see a list of all of the applications they have access to and which ones have been submitted. So, there are a few questions that may have come to mind for you regarding this new online portal submission method. You may be wondering, how do I access the portal? What equipment do I need? Any computer, tablet, or mobile device can be used. You just need to have an internet connection and a web browser such as Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Mozilla Firefox, or Apple Safari. And again, this is the web address for the digital portal. But please keep in mind that access to submit applications online will not be possible until this function of the portal becomes active for private sponsorship applications. You may be wondering how sponsors will submit applications if they don't have the technical knowledge or skills to even be able to use computers. IRCC recognizes that the permanent residence portal may present an accessibility barrier for some clients, so applications submitted by mail will still be accepted. Keep in mind, however, that mailed applications will take longer because they still need to be digitized. You may also be wondering how sponsors can get information or help on how to use the portal. Each of the current guides to private sponsorship will be updated to include instructions for submitting applications online. You can also request help through the IRCC web form. And the Refugee Sponsorship Training Program will also be offering additional training webinars once the portal has launched, where we will walk through the digital portal so you can learn how to submit an application package using the portal. The RSTP will also be posting demo videos on YouTube, which will address frequently asked questions about using the portal, such as how to create a user account, how to log in, etc. There will also be a list of frequently asked questions posted on the RSTP website. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. If you have any additional questions, I encourage you to register for the upcoming walkthrough demonstration of the online portal. And many of your remaining questions should be answered at that time. And for any other questions or after the walkthrough training, you're more than welcome to contact the RSTP helpline Mondays through Fridays between 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and you can get instant answers to your questions. And you're also welcome to contact your local trainer. So go to the Contact Us page, find your province, select the drop-down, and the trainer for your province will be listed there. And you can contact them as well in the future for any questions you may have related to the digital portal or related to private sponsorship in general. So thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a good rest of your day.